The other thing that's gotten Carly all fired up is a Chinese social media app called Pinduoduo.
China is eating our effing lunch. And this is just another example of that.
On this or in life?
In life, and this is
okay.
a microcosm example of why, in my opinion. So within this app is a game. It's called like Orchard, the Pinduoduo Orchard. And you like tend to this garden, you like grow your fruit. It's like one of these kinds of games. But at certain levels, you get then free deliveries. They'll just send you a free box of fruit. So you actually win real prizes off of the app from playing this game. So like, it consolidates like everything you want to do in a place where you also shop. So they just are they're giving you every incentive to shop and spend more money. And it's fascinating.
Welcome back to Yang Speaks, everybody. Guys, great news. Back by popular demand, we're doing an episode with the one and only Carly Reilly. For those of you who maybe missed her prior episodes, she was our former finance director, and we've had episodes with her on talking about crypto, talking about e-commerce, talking about the future of a whole bunch of things. And we're talking about, basically, I just want her takes on where the world's going. But we talk about something called a gift goat, which you're going to have to tune into the episode to figure out what the heck that is. Plus some news of the day. It's Carly. It's going to be full of energy. You're going to love this episode. So don't miss it. What the heck is a gift goat? What the heck is Carly Reilly up to? Tune in right now. Yang Speaks. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Yang Speaks. I made a decision, and it was a decision based on feedback from pretty much everybody else. So it's not like on a whim. But it's somewhat of a gut call because some of my decision data points here have been anecdotal. But the decision is to just keep bringing back Carly Reilly, who has been, it's called a recurring guest of this show and an amazing woman. And the reason is because every time she comes on, everyone generally likes seeing her and hearing her takes. But the other thing is she's like been right a lot and has been pointing out things or asking types of questions that seem to keep coming true. If we recall, Carly has predicted, we did early 2021 predictions, and 2 of your 3 have like gotten hot. Let's say one's 100% true. Wall Street Bets and Robinhood. Carly Reilly, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Love being here.
So we've been doing this series on the future of every Thursday, and you're not a particular expert on the future, although everybody I've brought on so far has always been very clear to say, like, Zach, I'm not an expert on the future. Almost every single, even the rocket scientists we brought on, Mikael said, like, I'm not an expert in the future. Please don't quote me on that. So I won't, it's not fair to call you that, but I wanted to talk about a number of things with you, Carly, today. And really, I just like getting Carly's takes on a bunch of things. And I know our audience does too. So let's do this. Carly, before we dive in, can you give us a little bit on your background? Like, I know it very well, and I think a lot of people who maybe followed the Yang presidential campaign knew your background. You were our finance director, like once we were big enough for people to care about who our finance director was. But I think you had every role on that campaign at some point, which is why I've always thought you're a superstar. So tell us about you a little bit.
Oh boy. All right, sure. So, I think my claim to fame is my work on Yang's presidential campaign. As you said, I was our finance director for the last year or so of that campaign. So just strictly focused on fundraising. But prior to being our finance director, I did a whole lot of whatever needed to be done. I joined the team really early on, as you certainly know. And so,
fifth employee or so.
It was an adventure in just like, nobody cares about us yet, but what can we do? Yeah, maybe they will someday. So let's do everything we can now to set ourselves up for that moment. But my journey to Yang was, I think, interesting, as I think a lot of people's journeys to Yang were. When I graduated from college, where I did a lot of fundraising actually in college, as work to get paid while I was in school. I went and worked at a hedge fund, and so had a bit of that finance experience there. Did not want to stay in finance. I think like you.
Recovering Wall Street executive. I think I put on my LinkedIn profile.
Recovering. Yeah.
Recovering Wall Street bro.
In my like, call it spare time, because I was not particularly happy in my day job, I started a show on Vermont cable access television called Once Upon a Political Time. It has all been taken off.
I want to put clips up. They've taken it all down?
I'll tell you on the side. Well, I don't know. We'll debate this privately.
It was available when she was interviewing guys, and it was like Carly on this local access TV show, like ranting Daily Show, Jon Stewart style, about a whole shit ton of issues.
The premise of the show was that I would look at the history of different political issues to better understand where we are with those issues today, like contextualize them.
What's an example of a topic?
Welfare actually is the one that led me to UBI. Which is relevant here. But I did government surveillance. Like I actually ended up going to DC and interviewing an NSA whistleblower. And that was the one that freaked out my employers. They were like, if you're going to keep doing this thing, I feel like you shouldn't work here. I then transitioned into, like, call it political media, was working at a production company because, again, the hedge fund I worked at was like, yo, you can't keep doing this show and working here. So I chose the side project. And I decided to try and make some money from it. And so I went and joined a production company that worked on like documentaries and sort of political media stuff. And while I was there, I heard Andrew Yang on the Sam Harris podcast in June of 2018. Ayo! And I'd been like a Sam Harris fan for 5 or 6 years at that point, which was kind of a long time as a 20 whatever year old to be a Sam Harris fan. And was just like, oh, hell yeah. And I was already a UBI fan because I'd done this history of welfare episode that had really illuminated to me like, oh shit, like we don't give out like just cash anymore to people. Like our welfare system is all in-kind benefits. It's food stamps. It's, welfare originally started out as money. Like it's the first welfare program in the United States was giving cash to widows of veterans. So we gave white women money because their husbands had died and we didn't expect them to work because their husbands had died in World War I. And it was
sexist.
It was so racist. Yeah, black people didn't get it.
I was going to say we should have added that as a talking point on the presidential campaign, minus the fact that it was racist and sexist. But we started cash give outs.
Cash was what it was. DNA. Cash was what it was. And then we started in the 60s, we added on other programs. And then in the 90s under Clinton was when we cut a lot of cash because we gave more power to the states to decide like welfare systems. And anyhow, so I was just, it felt very clear to me after learning about that history that one of the biggest problems right now was just a freaking lack of cash for people. And so I got into UBI. And then, so I heard Andrew on Sam Harris's podcast, however many months later, and was like, oh, this is fascinating. And I was like, I looked him up. I saw he was doing an event on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I was like, okay, I'm in.
At a bar called The Skinny
Bar. The Skinny
Bar.
Yep.
That's where I met Carly Reilly.
Correct.
I was like, hey, I want to work here. And I was like, oh, cool.
No. I came, smooth, suave, casual.
Smooth and suave. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. The words that are typically used to describe me.
Yeah.
So I showed up to this
Not
event.
Force of nature, tenacious, running up as fast, high energy.
So then showed up to this event, this bar, heard Andrew speak and was like just left, just like, oh my God, I'm going to work on this campaign. Like it just felt very cosmic to me, which I think a lot of us in the early days felt about his campaign. But I was still fairly new to the job I'd just taken at the production company. And it felt like fairly irresponsible to just like quit on the spot to go work for this like no-name dude who like had this like crazy long shot campaign aspiration.
And you were still just like a couple years out of college, right?
Yeah,
I was
24.
You're young, yeah.
Yeah. Which I
so there's no like track record of career. Like still you're gambling consistently with like I always thought like if you get out of college or your first job, sometimes you want like that blue chip company on the resume to show people that I'm employable. Like, I think that's changed a bit, but when I was graduating, that was like my goal. And I think that was like a common theme. You hadn't even done that. You're just like, no, I'm Carly, I have ideas.
You were a much more calculated career person than I've ever been.
That's because I have to make up for my lack of intelligence.
If you've been listening to this show, you know that we've been sponsored by Helix, and Helix has moved outside of the bedroom and into your living room because they make awesome sofas with Allform. And this episode is sponsored by Allform. And this sofa, I've had to sleep on this sofa at various times because I just pass out sometimes with watch TV. It's as comfortable as the mattress. It looks cool. And it's so easy to assemble. Someone as dumb as me and is incompetent when it comes to building things as myself can actually do it. It's fantastic. It comes to your door. It's delivered to you. Super easy assembly, extremely comfortable, and you physically can't stain it. Maybe that's not 100% true if you really tried, but I've tried in a whole bunch of ways. Chocolate, food, Indian food. I've got all of it on this couch and it all comes out. It's amazing. I freaking love this thing. If you want to find the perfect sofa, seriously, the perfect sofa, check out allform.com/yang. It's freaking awesome. And Allform right now is offering 20% off all orders for our listeners at allform.com/yang. I love this thing. You're going to love this thing. Check it out, allform.com/yang.
There's a whole second part to this, which I was actually writing a screenplay about like a woman who worked at a think tank who was researching UBI. And so like my underlying motivation here was like, ooh, maybe I'll get Andrew to read my screenplay. But I went to this event and was like, oh shit, no, like I want to work for this campaign.
Did you want to work for this campaign because you thought we needed help?
No, I was not like...
We did need a lot of help.
You did need a lot of help. No, I was not...
This was a crowded event though. It was one of our first... legitimate. It was post Sam Harris. We finally Yang had a crowd, and I was like, maybe this is something. Like maybe we did something.
No, but I left the event, went for like a 12-mile run because I was so like jacked up and just like hyped, and I was like, well, this is going to be like my next move. Just very clear on that for whatever reason. You guys had no job postings up, and I was like, give it a little time though. Don't be like impulsive.
We barely had a website.
100%. To find this skinny bar event, like, took digging. Like, I just phrased it as if, like, I just pulled it up online. Like, no, I was like, where is he having an event? And I, like, had to, like, dig and invite Eventbrite. We used
Eventbrite at the time. And we continued using it because it was a way easier event platform than what Democrats use, which is typically ActBlue. Because that feeds into like the voter file and other things.
Well, they use a lot of them use
Mobilize, right?
Mobilize America.
Yeah, but it was like those all connect to like Democratic platforms, and Eventbrite doesn't. Not even close. It's not meant for that. But it has like very simple, like it's a great app, and people are used to it. It's very easy to track RSVPs, so we're using that. A quick story, funny story about Sam Harris, though. I'm in charge of this campaign. It's early. I never heard of Sam Harris. I didn't know what the hell that is. I like never listened to a the only podcast I listened to, shout out my guys at Part of My Take. Sam Harris emails are like inbox, I believe. And Andrew Frawley on the campaign was like, oh my gosh, Sam Harris just emailed us. I was like,
that's a good Frawley impression. That's how he sounds.
This is so big. And I'm like, okay. So then I did some research. Like, actually, this is a big deal. And I remember, so Andrew at the time was like, the stump speech was, I'm going to give it a hit or miss sort of situation. He had written this book, so he knew his stuff backward and forward. So like when people got to talk to him, they really liked him. But it was not presidential. It was more like a TED Talk. And he didn't really prepare. He didn't have to. He always knew his stuff, but he wasn't like preparing to be a politician. And I remember like grabbing him. It was my first time as like campaign manager, like grabbing him by the collar and directing him to do something. I grabbed him by the collar. I'm like, dude, I don't care what you do, but you are preparing for this like you're studying for a test. You're going to question.
Yeah, it was like,
one.
yeah, I didn't study for tests either, so
Yeah,
I'm going to need a better example. I'm going to need a different analogy.
And he came in that day because Sam Harris did remote. He did it in the office. And he came in that day with like a little shit-eating grin, and he was like, "Hey Zach, prepare for this one." And if you listen to him on Sam Harris, he's really tight. He's really direct. It's awesome. And the only other time, so that and Joe Rogan is what we really, really prepped for, like get in the right headspace, like get ready to rock. I mean, obviously debates and stuff like that.
That was funny to me when I got to meet you all, and you were like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about Sam and these people," and I was like, "Oh boy." No, so
me
yeah,
in the interview. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Yeah,
No.
that was.
You're like, "Have you read this on UBI? Have you read this on UBI?" I was like, "Oh, what are you talking about?"
So I don't even remember where I was in my origin story here, but bottom line is, obviously, the ending. I ultimately, before I quit my job, I emailed Zach. I had gotten I got your card at the event and was like, "Yo, I have these experiences and I really want to work for you guys. Would you get on a phone call with me?"
So we had budget to hire one person. And that person needed to be a videographer because
and you got me.
And, you were like, I was like, "Can you do video?" I was like, "Can you do video?" And you're like, "Yeah, I've done my show. I can do some videoing." And like, the short answer is you can't. Like you could, I guess, if you really wanted to be, but the reality is you can't do video.
No, I can't.
You're not a video person.
No, this is a good story. So, so you say, okay, yeah, like actually good timing, we're looking to hire somebody. And I was also, I should say, like I was so cosmically sure that like this was all going to go down and that I was going to get this job that I waited 2 weeks. I read the War on Normal People. Then I emailed you and you waited like a couple weeks before you got back to me.
Really?
And or at least a week.
You a little bit?
Yeah,
I won't look desperate.
Playing hard to get,
Yeah, whatever.
And, you guys were busy with stuff, and I think you were debating if you needed to hire, etc. Yeah.
Well, I think anyways, the CEO of LinkedIn says like if I don't respond to your email, like Jeff, what's his name? I can't remember his name on top. His name's Jeff, and he said if I don't respond to an email in 20 minutes, you need to email me again because I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, you're never getting
that's not how I operate. Nor am I as cool as the CEO of LinkedIn, but.
Well, anyway, regardless, I was on the phone with a friend like a week and a half later or something and was like, I really want to work for this campaign. I sent this email off to them. They haven't gotten back to me, but fear not, I will just continue to harass them. And I hung up on that phone call and I had this I was like, no, I've heard back. Like I had this instinct to check my email right then. And like, lo and behold, like 20 minutes prior, you had emailed me. And then I skipped down Hudson Street, which is where I was when I got that email being like, oh my God, it's all happening. Anyways, we get on a phone call. It becomes clear that you need a videographer. I'm like, I kind of know how to work Final Cut Pro, but I'm very cognizant of the fact that I can't produce video quickly or animations. I can do very limited video. But so, and you're like, and it doesn't, you're playing it cool. You're like, okay, we need a videographer, but maybe we can find another role.
We liked you. Yeah, you had.
Yeah. So you were going to California for a week or something. And then you said, I'll get back in touch with you basically when I'm back from California. So I was like, cool. In that time, while you're in California, the campaign.
Begging people for money.
Yeah, the campaign posts a job posting on the campaign Instagram account for a video person. And I felt like I had been cheated on. I literally, my heart and stomach dropped. I just found my boyfriend making out with some other woman. I was like, we had this great conversation. It seemed to go really well. Clearly you need me. What the hell is going on here? So, and I go into panic mode. I'm like, oh, okay. They need a freaking videographer. Well, challenge accepted. And I dropped everything. I was working at was like, I'm going to learn how to do Adobe Premiere. And so I download the free trial version and I'm putting together an animation that shows the difference between labor force participation rates and unemployment rates, which in the end, that was not. We kind of, except for dude, that was way too nerdy for a presidential campaign. Anyway, so regardless,
we needed that type of thing. Yeah.
I spent an entire weekend. It was my roommate, one of my best friend's birthday weekends. And I was like, okay, Sarah, I'm going out, but I can't get too drunk because I got to be back at this thing tomorrow. This is the Saturday night, Sunday spent all day, Monday get up, go to work, have an email from Zach, you being like, hey, back in California. So yeah, I think we might have a good role for you. That's a combination of ops and marketing. Do you want to come in this week? Nothing about videography. Clearly I completely overreacted. And I just stumbled back home that night and was like, they don't need me to do videos. They may have a different role for me. I didn't need to do any of this.
I don't know if I heard that full story from you before. What happened during that time, and it's a good story of Andrew, and kind of how he leads, but not always. Like Andrew, I've always found to be very, very instinctual. As logical as he is, he has a very good gut feel. I like to pride myself on that too, but he's very good at it. And he goes, we found another videographer at the time, but we all really liked you. And so we only had money to hire one. We didn't really have money to hire one, frankly. We had nothing. We're like, maybe the videographer will make more money. And Andrew just goes, I remember telling him this dilemma. I was like, we want Carly. She can't do the video. We need a videographer like that. But there's a lot of stuff Carly can do that this videographer obviously can't do. And I remember him goes, like, he's like, look, when you're in a startup like this and you have a vision and you feel like someone's wants to be there and should be there, and the only thing stopping you is money, in my experience, you should just go for it. And so he's like, you know what? We'll find the money. And like what we'll find the money means is like Andrew and I are going to have to work harder, which was a ridiculous statement at the time because we were working 7 days a week, all day, every day to find money. But we found the money. And it was obviously our greatest hire. So you end up a lot of people don't know is Carly Reilly built the Yang Gang.
Well. I mean,
not like
that's a classic Zachism. Zach speaks in like broad strokes,
yes.
big grand statements, which is a lovely trait.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Don't let the truth.
Carly.
No. I mean, I was early in terms of like the initial Facebook groups, building out the initial handbook that led to the Facebook groups.
Infrastructure.
Yeah. Like phone call,
and we did these rallies around the country that we did not have money to do.
Yeah.
And so we had Yang Gang regional organizers who are all volunteers, and they
were amazing. Shout out to y'all.
Shout out to like Christine in Boston. Lacey in Atlanta. I'm gonna miss people and they're gonna be mad.
I will say, here's what I'd say is like
they know who they are, and they know
the
that
shout
I love
out to
them
the early Yang Gang is that Zach wanted to hire an event planner. This was the only other moment. This is the other moment on the campaign that I was like right over Zach. Zach wanted to hire an event planner to like plan our rallies. And I was like, this is an absurd. No, like we don't have that much money. Don't do this. And I remember like calling you. I remember like I was walking in Manhattan somewhere and calling you. And I was like, between me and the fan base, like the volunteers we have on the ground, we can make these rallies happen. And you were like, that sounds ridiculous, but if you're telling me it, okay, this is on you, like go make it happen. I learned
pretty early not to doubt you. And it would be so funny. We'd go to so you would get to a rally site. The rally would be at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever time.
And you would get there like 9 a.m. and like start setting up. And it was the summer, or depending where we were, it was usually pretty warm out. We would get there. We would get there 30 minutes before, and Carly's just dripping in sweat, just got her math hat on, just frazzled, but totally in control of what's going on. 8 people. There's a Bloomberg video that covered you a year later, essentially, but it's all about that video is you on a daily basis, just a million things, you're juggling all these things, and that's what it was like. But it's I will say this, and then we can move on to other things. But on the Yang 2020 campaign, I remember saying to the team over and over, and I think the team hated me for it, and maybe it was somewhat endearing over time, literally over time, not at the time, was guys, don't worry. Our greatest strength is we have no idea what we're doing.
Oh God, don't put this in the podcast.
We should, because that, and we thought of and it's also our greatest weakness. But what did it do? There was no way we could win running a traditional campaign. And because of the people that wanted to work on it, because we couldn't get people with campaign experience. I interviewed campaign managers, people with campaign manager experience and campaign experience who would I can't work for you, but I'll help you out, sort of thing. But there was no way we could run a traditional campaign because we just literally did not know how. We just didn't know how to do that. We've read our books on it, read this, but we just never done it. So from our end, the example is, well, we have a big, diehard growing fan base. We should throw rallies. Formal campaigns have an advanced team, and you get endorsers and get validators and set up the press the right way. We're we're planting a flag in San Francisco. Hope people show up. And, Yang rallies thousands in San Francisco was a headline in the San Francisco Chronicle. And I think Yang Mentum was headline in Vanity Fair.
It is hilarious to knowing now what like traditional campaigns do for rallies and the amount of money they spend on them, to think what we were doing and the money we were, I mean, our rally budget was like $10,000 a rally. Other campaigns will spend $100,000 on a rally.
It was less than that. The first rally.
That was our upper end budget. I mean, we didn't always hit that, but in the early days it was $1,000.
This episode of Yang Speaks is brought to you by Hello Tushy. Yes, y'all, I know you were missing it. We are still sponsored by a bidet company, and Hello Tushy is the best in the business. Bidets are, if you've ever done it before, it's a bit of a life-changing experience, and it saves paper, it's good for the environment, it's cleaner, you save money on toilet paper. Guys, you need to get your head right on this. Get into the bidet game, and Hello Tushy owns this place. They are the kings of this, and their Hello Tushy 3.0 bidet is fantastic. Got self-cleaning technology. It literally cleans itself. It's super cool and cuts your toilet paper use by 80%. Pretty freaking awesome. Plus, 60-day risk-free guarantee. So if you don't like it, get it back. And a 12-month warranty. So here's the deal. Give the gift of a clean butt. Go to hellotushy.com/yang and get 10% off. Woohoo! Plus free shipping. This is a special offer for our listeners at hellotushy.com/yang for 10% off. hellotushy.com/yang.
Okay, I want to talk about something a bit in the future. So Carly has been diving into NFTs, and we did an NFT episode with the founder of OpenSea.
You did a founder of OpenSea episode?
Keep up, okay?
Oh God, I can't believe I didn't know that.
Keep up, okay? We are
so
on the cutting edge. Devin is great.
Oh God, I really want to listen to that. That's awesome.
I have a lot of respect for Devin. I have a huge amount of respect for anyone who builds anything. That is my, for me, in my background, having built a nonprofit and this campaign and a team actually on Wall Street built something, and then Humanity Forward. It is hard to build anything. And frankly, in many ways, the government will make it more difficult, not less difficult. So, that's like the libertarian conservative in me in some ways. Building things are hard. Respect Devin. But we talked a lot about like his marketplace for NFTs and where that's going. But what we didn't talk about is how non-fungible tokens, if you didn't hear that episode, it's a great episode.
I want to listen to it.
Change the game. And what they can look like from a human, that we touched on this, but we didn't go deep enough. And you have been going deep into this. Like Carly down a rabbit hole is my favorite Carly.
I've spent like hours upon hours in the last like 2 weeks on the phone with banks and a whole bunch of other bullshit, all because I wanted to buy a what?
A gift goat. Carly wants to spend...
Don't tell.
I'm not going to give you a number. You can Google this number if you want to, but let's just say a substantial portion of our collective net worth, which is not a lot. I know it's a lot relative to, I'm very blessed that I'm born in America and have a job and I'm educated, but I'm not rich.
Asterisk privilege caveat here.
Cool. But I'm not a rich guy. I made some money on Wall Street and I spent it all on Sally Mae. And it's okay, just like there, okay. But we want to spend the little we have on a gift goat. Carly, tell us, the audience here, what is a gift goat? And back up all the way. Like,
I think I'm a good voice. This is a good story for people who maybe like still aren't sold on the concept of NFTs, because I'm not coming at this from like a super insider, like, developing on Ethereum blockchain, love OpenSea kind of a perspective. I'm like very much a layperson, and I'm a layperson who doesn't even understand like physical art. Like, I think the context here is, if you've heard of NFTs a little bit, what you probably know about them, right, is that like they're a collectible item, or they're sort of like digital art that people buy and trade and sell and try and make money off of, much like people do art. in the call it real world. That has always been a little bit less interesting to me as somebody who's not interested even in art in the real world and has no capacity to gauge like the value of something. Like I never would have been able to tell you that Beeple was going to sell for $69 million. Like that's just, I never will be able to. So I'm much more interested in the ways that NFTs can be leveraged to create like what I would call very real value. And this is where the gift goat comes in. So Gary Vaynerchuk, some of you might be familiar with.
Gary V, as he's known on the interwebs, it has launched. For those who don't know him, very popular entrepreneur, very popular influencer. He's great. He probably pioneered influencer, if you will.
He was very early on the internet, started like a YouTube channel about wine when he ran a wine shop.
Very
super
rich
smart
guy, great builder, great marketer. Keep going.
Correct. So he's launched an NFT project that I got pretty excited about because the premise was that every token, so every one of his NFTs that he was releasing, serves as a ticket to a conference he's going to put on for the next 3 years called VCon. And so the idea was if you buy this token, that token gives you access to the conference for the next 3 years. So already, right, you can start to kind of price things out. Like, okay, what does a really good conference typically cost? A multi-day conference, what does that cost?
If you go to Milken, it's like $10K. That's like the big rich Aspen.
And then
I don't even know what that is. Probably
if you want to take it down from there, like a Tony Robbins, like 3-day thing, who's like also kind of a motivational speaker type, like you're looking at a couple $1,000. You can start to get a sense of like what one of these conferences typically costs. And then bearing in mind that you'll have this for 3 years and you can start to be like, oh, wow, like this token is, I should likely make money on this if it's under a certain amount. So what Gary Vee was promising was like a multi-day conference over the course of 3 years that's going to be fucking badass. Like he was like, this conference is going to be sick. I'm pulling in all of my connections to make this the biggest, baddest, like Davos meets frickin' what's the music festival, meet the young, cool, upcoming like influencers and whatever. So I was like, cool, already I can start to value this project in a way that I can't regular art. And Gary's been big on this and I totally buy this. He was like, this is a proper NFT project. Like this is how you can build a real community around this as opposed to like just trying to quick cash in on like a what's hot now thing where like other kind of creators who have communities, I think have put out NFT projects that were like kind of make a quick buck, but didn't really put a lot of thought into how do you build a real community out of this. So, he's got like a Discord channel set up, which is like full of people like just excited about this conference, like excited about this project. A chat group. This brings us to the gift goat. So I bought 2 tokens. So I now have 2 tickets to VCon at like the lowest basement price I could get.
What are these tokens called?
Oh, my happy hermit crab and my sufficient shrimp.
Yep. So you spent some money. You bought a happy hermit crab and a sufficient shrimp.
I spent thousands of dollars on a happy hermit crab and a sufficient shrimp.
Tokens, Gary Vee, not an artist, again, entrepreneur, builder, marketer, sketched himself. So they look, and he will say this, and I like Gary Vee, I'm not trying to knock him, but they look ridiculous. They look like I drew a pig or a hermit crab in this case, a shrimp on the back of a napkin.
I will defend this though. There is a style to them.
Okay, that's fair. He's consistent with his style. Yes. But anyway, you bought a happy hermit crab with some.
I bought a happy hermit crab with ETH. For anybody who's curious, you pay Ether for this stuff because these tokens are on the Ethereum blockchain. Okay, so this brings us. So as I've bought my first 2 tokens, I'm in this Discord channel, and I'm getting like more and more excited about this project in general. And so here's the premise behind the gift goat. So I should say, so all of these tokens get you access to this conference, but then there are different groups of tokens that also do other things on top of getting you access to the conference. And that ranges from like one-on-one time with him in various ways. You could have him on your podcast, etc. Those are obviously much more expensive tokens.
And these tokens you can resell. So they can change in value.
Correct. This is, I think, the brilliance of his doing. Each of these tokens basically gets you something for 3 years. The really cool thing about that is you could basically reap the reward for a year and then resell and recoup all, hopefully even more of your initial investment in it, and still have also gotten whatever the initial benefit to it was. Correct.
The conference.
So the gift goat. Here we go. The big reveal. The premise behind the gift goat is that at a minimum of 6 times a year for the next 3 years, Gary Vee and his team are going to curate gifts, at least 6, that will be sent, at random to your home at like random times. So it's this very fun sort of like Christmas for adults NFT, premise.
But it comes with 6 gifts a year. And
yes. So this embedded in the smart contract, right? People probably know that term, like which is what underpins these NFTs, is the fact that if you're an owner of this token, you get at least 6 gifts a year randomly from Gary Vee. I am very convinced these gifts are going to be sick. Like, I think he's going to give a car. And so to me, you were looking
he's
at,
implied a lot of cool stuff.
He's implied a lot of cool stuff.
In your driveway.
So not only will this NFT hopefully have really good resale value as people start to understand it and are like, oh shit, like you just get like 6 gifts randomly delivered to your house. That's awesome. The gifts themselves, if you don't want them, should likely have really good resale value. So the opportunity to like make money off this thing just felt high. Now, I don't know how much we want to get into. I will say this. We do not have a gift goat. I don't know if it's worth getting into the cough goat.
No, it is worth getting into this. So Carly sells me on this gift goat thing because I was like, all right, this is a cool way to invest in crypto and get, like, I saw it as investment, like my old school, like wealth management situation, like mindset was like, okay, you got to buy a bunch of crypto to buy this gift goat. The thing has value for 3 years. So it's a way to invest in crypto if you're still exposed to crypto that way. But then you're essentially getting a dividend on top of it, the dividend being like a gift 6 times a year. And theoretically, these gifts could be awesome. So you could resell them yourself. You could keep them yourself if they're great. You also get access to the conference you're talking about. But we couldn't get it because in order to, basically you have to.
Are you going to try and explain this? This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to hear Zach try to explain this.
So in order to buy cryptocurrency, you can do it through both two ways, right, Carly? Or you can only do one and you have to convert to the other one.
You can do it a lot of ways.
Okay. The main way is you go to Coinbase, you make a Coinbase account, you transfer money in from your regular bank into Coinbase, and then after a certain period of time, there's usually a lockup period. And depending how you get that money in, the lockup period changes, and then you can spend it. And basically, there was a run on these gift goats. We had money in Coinbase. We bought Ethereum. We bought Ether because that's how you get a gift goat. But the money was locked up in Coinbase because I don't know why, but it takes a number of days to validate. So we couldn't we had our money. Our money was gone, but we didn't have the Ethereum. So we never got a gift goat. And Carly and I have been yelling at each other probably for 5 days in a row.
Look, if I actually explain this to people, you are going to lose all of your subscribers because it's going to be very boring. That is a fine description. The only caveat I want to give, Gary, if you're listening, is that this wasn't just a simple case of like, oh, it was locked up for a couple days the way it normally is. Because if that were the situation, we would have gotten a gift goat. This was like a whole other level of shenanigans because look, crypto is nascent. It's the Wild West. But like, this was not like the normal hold period. It ended up being held up for 8 days for reasons that it doesn't matter. It should not have been. So we missed a gift goat because of Coinbase. We didn't get the gift goat. And so Gary, if you want to throw me one, I really tried. It is actually crazy. It is crazy the state. I mean, I ended up borrowing ETH from somebody to try and get this thing. I've spent hours trying to get this damn gift goat. So
here's where we're at. I'm going to throw this out to the Yang Gang if you want to. If anyone has like a couple ETH and wants to go in on a gift goat with us, you DM me on Instagram or Twitter or DM Carly. She's way better about responding to that stuff anyway. We're open. Gift goat.
Wait, that's hilarious to me that you're saying this, Zach. After everything we've been through this week, that you're reopening this can of worms.
I've been very turned off by the gift goat saga, and it's fine. But if you're game, still opening it.
I think he's making a bet that NFTs and the wallets that you keep an NFT in are going to be almost like the future social media where like we all go and check each other's wallets. I see an element to that vision that could be true.
This episode of Yang Speaks is brought to you by BetterHelp. Guys, I've been doing BetterHelp. I have this counselor, Sarah. She's freaking awesome. I do it once a week, easy to set up. As soon as I signed up, it was it's like my steam valve. I just release some steam. And so for you, whether you're struggling with depression, stress, anxiety, anger, family conflicts, whatever is in your mind, it is important to get your mind right. important to focus on your mental health, and BetterHelp is freaking awesome. It's secure, it's confidential, it is professional counseling done securely online. So I want you to start living a happier life today. And as a listener, you're going to get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor, BetterHelp.com/Yang. So join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Yang. Don't be stupid. Make sure you do this. Think about your mental health. BetterHelp.com/Yang.
So what I want to get to here is I love Carly takes, if you will. So let's talk about some Carly takes. And I want to just like Carly's perspective on what the hell's going on. And so there's your gift goat take. She says it's going to be hot. If you want to get in on it, do it yourself. Or if you really want to be awesome, hit me up. Carly,
there is a price at which it's awesome and a price at which it's not. That's what I want to be careful about. The prices we were trying to get it at were awesome. So we have to think if they're still awesome now.
So, but the other thing that's gotten Carly all fired up is a Chinese social media app called Pinduoduo. Is that how you? That's probably not how you say it in actual Mandarin.
In Mandarin, they tend to be like Pinduoduo. Like they kind of do it really fast at the end, but I don't know. Okay. I don't speak Mandarin.
I don't understand.
It's PINDUODUO.
I struggle with English. So I'm the wrong person there. But tell me about this app and why it's taking over the world. Going to take over the world.
Okay, I think it's. I recently learned about this, and again, it's connected to me actually to the NFT conversation because it's all about social commerce, right? So this blending of our social media lives and our shopping lives, essentially, or our spending and buying lives. And China is eating our effing lunch. And this is just another example of that.
On this or in life?
In life, and this is a microcosm example of why, in my opinion. So I'll start with like the two elements of this that I think are cool. So essentially, this is an app. It started off as like almost like an agriculture buying platform. So you bought food and like fruit and things like that, as opposed to just a general commerce app. But they've expanded now to be in like a whole bunch of different goods. But they have this concept called team buying. So when you go on the Pinduoduo app, you see both an individual price and then a team price. And the team price is lower. Basically, if you're going to buy in bulk, right, you can get it for a cheaper price. So you either then can join an existing team, like an existing group of people that want that thing, or you can start your own team and like text all of your friends and be like, yo, you want to go in on a bunch of peaches this week with me, or a bunch of vacuum cleaners, or whatever the hell you're doing. Like, this is a cool product. And if they're like, yeah, you all hop in and now you all get a discount on this good. So, but they're tracking all of this data, obviously. And so they're starting to be able to map social relationships. They're mapping who has more influence. They're saying like, oh, wow, when this person sends their friends like something in the, clothing related, everybody clicks on it. A bunch of people buy. This person has a lot of influence in clothing. And so now the clothing people, instead of like going for just the famous influencers we know, they can say, okay, this person has like micro weight within their friend group and within their social circle. We'll target them with our ads. It'll be a little bit more expensive to target them because they'll share with their friends. And they do it by segments. So they say this person's influential in clothing, this person's influential in food.
And there's probably an algorithm that's showing it on real time when people are, oh, wow.
So it speaks to how much data. Andrew talks about this. AI is like gets better and is like eats data. And so the more data you can feed it, the more data you can feed it, the more it grows, the stronger it gets, et cetera. And this is just another area where China is getting so much freaking data that's really interesting and social mapping their entire country. And look, there's drawbacks too. I'm not excited about this because I'm like, oh, this is awesome. All of this data about us is forever going to be available. But it is really interesting. The second component to this app, that's like the social component, the social commerce component to it, is the gamified component. So within this app is a game. It's called like Orchard, the Pinduoduo Orchard. And you like tend to this garden, you like grow your fruit. It's like, whatever, one of these kinds of games. But at certain levels, you get then free deliveries. They'll just send you a free box of fruit. So you actually win real prizes off of the app from playing this game. So like, it consolidates like everything you want to do in a place where you also shop. So they just are they're giving you every incentive to shop and spend more money. And it's fascinating. I mean, the advantage, I'll say the one advantage that China has over a place like the United States, well, there's many, but on something like this is they subsidize shipping. So this is where you can have members of a team from all over the country and you can still get this discounted rate and they can ship it,
the government
to many
subsidized
people.
shipping for all their countries.
Yeah. It's something like that. For some reason, shipping for them is a lot cheaper than it is for us here. It's actually, there's something kind of archaic about the fact that, Instagram shows us a lot of ads about things we want to buy, but you click that ad, you get taken off of the Instagram app onto another website. And that we're going to see that start to go away. This is my prediction is like, you're going to see commerce be more directly integrated into these social media apps more and more, where you're buying directly from that social media platform. You're not clicking something and being taken to another site and like kind of moving you out of whatever you're in. It's going to become all one experience.
Do we know if this is going to come to the United States?
I don't know. I will tell you, this is a fun thing. Guess how many users they started in 2015. Guess how many users they have?
700 million.
Wow, very good. 788 million.
Oh, look at me. Look at that.
That was impressive.
Wow.
But damn, that's a lot. That's, I mean, more than more than double the population of the United States use this app. Oh, and I think that's weekly users or monthly users. Like that's regular active users is like 700 plus million people.
Craziest book I've read on the future of China and AI is called AI Superpowers by Kai-Fu Lee. And he said a couple things. So one of the things is China is better situated for mobile payments than the United States is. And mobile payments are so valuable for AI and for data gathering because let's say I'm just going to Chipotle and I bought something. If I do it with a credit card, there's only so much info. But if I do it with my phone, they know all the data that's on my phone, my shopping habits, my actual geo-targeted location, my gender, zip code, income, all those things, right? And so there's just more data around what your so they can tie the purchase to who you are and your buying habits and things like that. And so the United States, we went from cash to credit cards very easily. That's an awesome jump, right? Like it's like, okay, instead of carrying all these bills and coins and crap, like having a credit card, way easier. That's awesome. Going from credit card to your phone in the United States, like it's a bit costly to change. Like you have to like put your credit card in the phone. Like you guys have used Apple Pay or other things, right? And what's the real benefit? You're probably still carrying a wallet. It's not that much better than carrying a credit card. It's slightly better, and there's a bit of a cost. So like it's slowly adopting here in the United States. China had never really gotten to credit cards. They were still in cash. So the difference between cash and WeChat is massive. So instead of using cash, they can put their bank account on WeChat. And so they've gone to mobile payment fast. And that is the big difference in terms of how much data they're getting in AI. And the second thing that blew my mind in that book is this concept that Kai-Fu Lee flipped on its head. I love your thoughts on this. He flipped on its head the concept of American hustle today in 2020 when he wrote it, or 2021 today.
Not as in the movie starring Jennifer Lawrence.
She was in a movie called Hustle.
American Hustle.
Oh, she's in that? I thought that was Bradley Cooper was the star.
And Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence.
I'm a
How
chauvinist.
sexist of you.
I'm an asshole.
Yes.
I forgot she was in that. To be honest with you, I love J-Law. I just think of other movies when I think of her.
She and Bradley Cooper did like 3 in a row together. That was one of them. Anyways, continue.
You think they dated?
That was always the rumor. I think he was in love with her. The word on the street is he was in love with her and she rejected him.
Good for her. So Kai-Fu Lee said this. He basically flipped this notion that American entrepreneurs or this American hustle, where like we work harder, we've got that American spirit, like we're gonna kick ass, the cowboy mentality, like work. We're gonna have American ingenuity. People go, it's like, so he's like, you think you work hard in the United States? Like you guys have all like in these big startups we have at Facebooks or Googles, you have like, like nap rooms and all these cushy snacks and like wonderful work-life balances. You're talking about 3-day weekends, which we've been a proponent of, all these things. He's like, in China, like you started a company like a Facebook or any sort of startup in China, you're sleeping on the floor of the office, making no money and working all day, every day. You're sleeping on the floor.
Okay, let's be very clear. That was what happened at Google and Facebook in the early days. Like, the early Google guys talk a lot about sleeping
But
on
he's
the
like,
floor.
this is
we're
more
not-
ingrained in
we're
the
talking-
culture as opposed to America. There's like an exception where there's like, yes, people still do this in the United States, but this is like everybody in the US, in China. Like, this is the DNA. And what he said, which is even deeper than that point, because that point you can debate back and forth. But he's like, in the United States, when we have a minimum viable product, we have a product people like that's growing, we declare victory. When you create Facebook, we're like, Facebook's awesome. Zuckerberg on the cover of Forbes magazine or whatever you want. Victory. We have it. Yay, America. Yay, Mark. Yay, people investing in that great company. Declare victory. In China, when you have a minimum viable product, they declare war. And he's like, and that's
This is about IP law,
laws,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
And they just start stealing each other until, and what he argues in the book is at the end of this war, the company that comes out of it, because people just stealing each other's ideas and fake, and like, so the example would be like someone make Facebook.com, someone would make Facebook.co, or a typo that's like Facebook with 2 Ks or whatever it is, .com, and a website looks exactly the same, get all the information, make a competitor immediately. But the companies that come out of this war have a bigger moat around their business to make them in some ways unbeatable, because they've had like legit street fights to exist. So it was fascinating. I mean, look, he blew my mind. And then he talks more about AI, but like talking about the culture of China and how they're going to win the AI super war, arms race, if you will. Mind blowing. And this is another app coming out there.
I'll say 100%. I absolutely think they're going to win the AI arms race, and they're going to become the superpower because of it. I will say it's interesting because I had read a book many years ago called Tiger Woman on Wall Street about this woman from, I think, Shanghai, ended up going to Middlebury, ended up getting to Wall Street, going onto Wall Street, whatever, getting a finance job. And she painted the lack of IP law and the lack of infrastructure around IP law in China as actually something that was going to keep it from being able to dominate the United States. This was all an analysis sort of in absence of AI. This was many years ago. But her argument was, look, there's no incentive to innovate essentially in China, because the second you sink a lot of money into R&D, like research and development, and you build a great product, somebody's going to come along, reverse engineer it, steal your idea. So why would you even
why would you
bother innovating to begin with? So that's where I think it's a double-edged sword. I read this book probably, I don't know how long ago now, probably a decade ago. And I do think some of it has remained true, but I think that this additional point of like, okay, but no, it's actually meant that like the people who survive or the companies that survive are like mega companies. I think clearly that's borne out too. And that was not something I was thinking about.
We don't need this endless human suffering of toiling the fields, if you will, or just like we're all work. And I always thought Switzerland had it right, where they like get one or two big cash cows of new inventions and new companies that come out of there, but they also have a great social safety net and people are generally content and happy. Now it's easy to run a country of how big is Switzerland? And like that's someone who's you could argue is a workaholic saying this, but I do think it's. Work, money, success, they don't correlate to happiness really at all at a certain point. So it's an interesting talk about human experience. But I love Carly's take, Pinduoduo.
Keep your eye out for that kind of general premise.
The way you've described this, I want this app. I want to play Farmville, get free discount, or I want to get discounted stuff. Maybe Instacart will get into this. That'd be great. I want to talk about news of the day with you. I thought the one that was interesting, I have two topics for you. One is Congress right now has approved the creation of a commission on the January 6th riots. There are some on the right that don't want to do this, that don't want to explore this. And I see your eye roll. My question is, it's more of an existential question, is like, what has happened in the United States where we think a certain percentage of the country is okay with insurrection at our capital, where we're talking about, frankly, and some of that's coming from the right, which is historically, at least in recent decades, the National Security Party. What do you think has happened where it is okay for this type of spitting in the face of the flag, and the American history that way has become okay. Is it a scarcity thing? Is it a social media brainwashing thing? Is it they feel like they're being actual patriots because they don't like the way things are going? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that they believe that the election was stolen. And if we reached a point in this country where elections were clearly completely fraudulent and we couldn't trust the democratic, like we couldn't trust in our democracy, that would justify an overthrow. Arguably, it would justify something massive. And so I think this goes to in Tim Alberta's article about Nikki Haley. He asks her a couple times, like, hey, in your conversations with Trump in the aftermath of the insurrection, which Nikki Haley spoke out against vehemently publicly, did you, Nikki Haley, push Trump about like changing his stance, right? And saying like, stop, you need to condemn this. You need to say that the election results were real. And Nikki said, she did, I guess, a little bit. But then at the end of the day, like Trump genuinely believes that the election was stolen from him. So like, what is the point? And I get that logic. Like, I know a lot of people hate that, but like, yeah, he's going to believe that. These people who stormed the Capitol genuinely believe that. I mean, I think it's abhorrent that so many elected officials and Republicans are willing to just like let that go. Because I think many of them don't believe it, but just don't want the blowback on their party. So I think, honestly, all the things you cited, right, social media, et cetera, have all played into this for sure. The sense of growing distrust in our institutions, et cetera, et cetera. But to say like, how have people become okay with this? I think it's because they saw it, they genuinely believe that the election was stolen. And so that justifies, On
one hand, it's awesome. On one hand, it's really sad that I keep going back to Andrew's book on the war on normal people, where he talked a lot about, like, he made a lot of predictions of where things are going, and the mindset of scarcity where what's yours is yours, mine is mine, Mad Max style, instead of a mindset of abundance where there's enough for everybody to go around. That, I think that fuels a lot of the hatred. And it's not just so January 6th is one, but I think you're seeing it in other ways. So you have the NBA playoffs are going on. And there's a couple, and there were two instances, three actually. So there was one where Kevin Durant on the Nets and I can't remember the name of a player on the Celtics were like literally, and Kyrie Irving got into this too. They're literally like shouting like really nasty things to each other on the court. The other night, Russell Westbrook got popcorn. One of the players got popcorn dumped on him by a fan as he was exiting the court. A Knicks player, I believe, got spit or someone spit on a player at a Knicks game. And when I saw these stories, and to be honest, I haven't like deeply followed them. I've seen the headlines and seen them come across on ESPN, frankly. But it's frustrating to see the level of hate we have in our hearts as a society, the fan base. We're getting rabid. We are getting angrier and angrier. And that was our hope with UBI, frankly.
Well, and of course, there's I think a racialized component of it when you talk about like a zero sum. What's yours is like what's mine is mine. There's not enough to go around. I think to some extent both parties, but I would say far more the Republican Party has very intentionally tried to like race bait to like give it even more heat. Like it's not just like, it's like, that other race is taking this from you, or like that other race is going to win and therefore you are going to lose. And I think that is heartbreaking, and it's been done through all of fucking American history and all of history
Global
in general.
history.
We were doing this. We were doing this with the Nat whatever rebellion. Like, like it was like, poor whites, instead of being mad at the rich people who are taking things from you, get mad at the black people, or get mad at the slaves. So in any case, I think it's just tragic. And I'll say we should absolutely have an investigation into what happened on January 6th. The fact that we haven't already, to me, is just, I don't know enough about this or how this process came about, but like, are you out of your effing mind? Yeah, there should be an investigation. I absolutely think that there were senior members of the Republican Party who were probably, aware of what was going on in advance, because these people had weirdly inner knowledge of the layout of the Capitol building inside. And I think it's abhorrent.
Who knows? I'm a big fan of commissions investigating any, when major things happens, we need to figure out what happened. So last question for you, Carl, as we wrap this thing is what's on your mind the next coming weeks? Summer starts, things you're focused on. I just look for you for future trends, things you think are going to pop, things are going to be problematic, things are going to be exciting. It could be anything from fun to political to serious to whatever you're ever thinking. What's on your mind?
Oh, this is a fun question. Not to be a broken record, but because I do get, as you know, as you said, sort of down these rabbit holes. I'm looking at sort of other interesting things in the, call it like crypto-ish space. Look, I don't know if we're at the tail end of a bubble, if we're just about to hit a new wave of a kind of bull market. I don't have a prediction there. I don't know. But I am thinking long term about this stuff. I think I've been looking at this crypto called Algorand, which is like an alternative. It's sort of like an alternative to Ethereum in the way that it's structured. It's fascinating. Like conceptually, this thing will blow your mind in terms of the way it seems to improve upon the governance structure of Ethereum, which I know this is like nerdy for folks who maybe aren't as into the crypto stuff. But so I'm reading a bunch about that, want to continue to do that. I just listened to an interview with the founder of Algorand on Lex Friedman's podcast. And there's another one called Cardano that, I had gotten recommended to me. Somebody told me to look into it. And then like many months later, I was like, oh, by the way, now I'm looking into it. So reading about that. So I would say those are the two that I'm sort of investigating in the couple weeks to come. I wish I had like a more fun answer. Like, I don't know, just like party and
no, it's
whatever
funny.
bullshit.
When you say that, I'm interested in how we all get vaccinated or don't get vaccinated. Apparently some people are not. I'm curious. I'm fascinated about the NFL season because I think a lot of players many are getting back, but some are not. I think it's fascinating. And you have the Olympics coming up too this summer. Athletes are different. Like I think they should, I don't think they should be held to a standard where they have to be this like spokesperson politically on the vaccine. I don't think that's fair. Like if you're an athlete, like what goes in Michael Phelps's body should be is very different than what goes in my body. I'm not an Olympic athlete. That will be a heated up discussion, I think.
So if they don't get vaccinated though, or if there's players that aren't getting vaccinated, then they just have to go into like a bubble system again, like they did last year.
Right. And unlike if it should these organizations,
should the
like
players
NFL,
who are willing to get
Committee,
vaccinated have to deal with a bubble situation?
Or are they allowed to make rules like you can't compete unless you're vaccinated? And if they do, right. I mean, I guess they could make that rule. Is that fair? I'm not sure it is.
I think that's fair. I think so.
I don't know. Like if I'm vaccinated, I think people should get vaccinated. But I think athletes are different, and it's fair for an athlete to be like, I'm not comfortable with this, and I will stay away and wear a mask.
But the science, there's not science to back up that idea that somehow this would be like, if like, what's an example of something that's happened to somebody who's taken a vaccine that is fine for you or I, but would be a problem for an athlete?
So I think
it's just not borne out that
like the random horror stories, which I don't know if are true or not. But the biggest one is you don't know the long-term effects because we can't physically. Now, I'm not saying, I want to be very clear, maybe because like I'm pro-vaccine, I think we should do it. But if I'm an athlete, I'm like, what I do is control what goes in my body.
I think they should be mandated to take the vaccines if they want.
There you go.
I don't think there's enough any evidence here. I feel like that's just I don't think that because they're an athlete, it's like they have to worry more.
And let's be clear,
that's my initial
get freaking
reaction.
Vaccinated. Come on, guys. Let's go.
Of course.
But that's my prediction is that you have these debates. I'm saying that stuff to take the other side because I think you're going to see it a lot from rational people, not just the far right or the far left. Okay. Carly Reilly, the OG, the wonderful, brilliant, and wizard of the future. Future predicting
I don't know.
Wizard.
I think it's a dangerous, dangerous reputation to start to build.
Thank you for letting us pick your brain here on Yang Speaks in the future of. We will talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.